Thank you for joining us this evening. We are very grateful to have some super amazing guests this evening. I would like to take this time to let you all know that we have Cricket Tiger herself, Muskogee, and Cochiti Pueblo, pardon me, uh, who is going to be moderating this show tonight with our gorgeous, amazing artist, Rose Simpson. And so I would like to just let you know that Cricket is a student starting her junior year at Stanford University, and we have been blessed at Indigenous Ways to have Cricket intern for the summer for us, with us, and we are having a wonderful time working with this beautiful young being. Everybody, welcome Cricket Tiger, and thank you, Rose, for being with us this evening.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Tosh, for introducing me. I'm Cricket Tiger, Muskogee Creek and Coach D Pueblo, and I'm so excited for this evening with Rose. It's such an honor to be able to interview you, Rose, so thank you so much for joining me. And this is the time where we're going to take a moment to acknowledge whose land we're on. We want to take this time to acknowledge and honor the ancestral lands of Oge Poge Winge, now called Santa Fe. As Pueblo people whose roots have long been tied to these lands, we recognize and respect the deep histories, prayers, and paved pathways our relatives who have come before us and continue to guide us. We give thanks to the ancestors and the spirit of this land, which has sustained our people for generations and affirmed our futurity as Pueblo people. We are grateful for the blessings of being here, for the continuation of our lifeways, and for the responsibility we carry to protect and honor this place as those people before us have always done. Thank you all for being here in the space with us today. And now it's time to formally introduce, in as I've already said, it's my absolute honor to introduce this month's guest speaker for Indigenous Ways. Rose B. Simpson. Rose is a renowned and visionary artist from Santa Clara Pueblo, New Mexico. Her work spans ceramic sculpture, metalwork, fashion, performance, music, installation, writing, and even custom cars, all deeply rooted in Indigenous knowledge, storytelling, and lived experience. She holds an MFA in ceramics from the Rhode Island um, School of Design and an MFA in creative writing from the Institute of American Indian Arts. Her work has been exhibited internationally and is a part of major museum collections across the continent. Rose continues to live and work in her home community of Santa Clara Pueblo, where she not only creates but raises her daughter with the hope of passing creative and grounded engage engaging with the world. Please join me in welcoming the incredible, powerful, talented, and inspiring Rose Simpson. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Rose.
Thank you, Cricket. And thank you to the Wisdom Circle for hosting me. This is really sweet to be a part of this. Can everyone hear me good? We're all good.
Yes, I can hear
Sweet.
you perfectly. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
So I just want to begin asking you, going into the interview, can you tell us about your beginning journey as an artist and how one like yourself found ways to maintain a sincere connection to lineage through your artistic expression?
Um, I didn't realize it until later, but I had a really unique childhood. Um, in that all the people who raised me were artists or creatives. And so my mom is Roxanne Swensel, who is a renowned sculptor, and she developed her own contemporary style. And as a little kid, I would sit and watch her work in clay in her studio, um, and she would give me little tiny pieces because the clay was special. It wasn't a toy. Um, And my dad is Patrick Simpson, and he's also an artist. My daughter just came home. Who works in metal and wood. So I got to watch my dad sculpt wood. He's a fine wood crafts person. Um, and I think just in general, I got to see my parents be innovative and creative and um, sort of have agency in their creative processes. When I was a little kid, my mom started a nonprofit organization called Flowering Tree Permaculture Institute. And I got to grow up in and among sort of investigation of permaculture in the high desert landscape, but also in a reservation context and also on our ancestral homeland. So um, with the resources of our tribal lands, but also with um, the understanding and reintegration of ancestral systems of sustainable living was really, I think, I mean, important. She homeschooled us for several years, and that was incredible because I think that me and my older brother, who were homeschooled, were um, encouraged to investigate the things that we were interested in. Um, and now my brother Porter is his PhD, runs a tribal school. He's a historian and a cultural preservationist. And I think that some of those really early, like integral experiences, really demonstrated how to sort of have agency and think for oneself and then be innovative to figure out what and how you can apply your creative processes. Um, and permaculture, which is the study of sustainable living systems, is basically one way of explaining or looking at our ancestral ways of living in relationship with our land. And so when my mom took over the nonprofit fully, she basically turned it into cultural preservation um, and seed bank. And she started a bunch of cultural preservation projects and programs, including like um, working with the tribe on starting clan houses, etc., that have been lost and lifeways that have been lost. And so it's been really incredible to, grow up in the Pueblo and seeing how, there's no word for art. Art is the way you sort of live and how you engage with the world around you with the innovative mind and one that's based in relationality. I think that you're in this collaboration with um, your ideas and also, the materials that are at hand, which I don't like calling resources, but actually like family or, you know, um, um, gifts in a sense, um, like clay is definitely not just a resource. She's a family member. She's someone that has been with us for a long, long time that we build relationship with. But because of that, like I also see metal that way. I see metal as something that is, um, from the earth, and and I've built a relationship with metal. Um, and that I think that learning to talk to the metal and learning to collaborate with it rather than subjugate it is a way of approaching life and creativity and innovation. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think like I think part of your question was like, what is the sincerity of your history, or like how do you reconnect with that? And I think that I would say the sort of thesis statement of that creative process and its connection to ancestry is not what it is, but how you do it. Um, and so it's more about the manner in which you navigate your reality and relationship to not just people and places, but also what we call resources. So that's a long story.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. When you were talking about being so young with your mother and working with clay, I can relate because my dad's as you know, our dad, my dad, is a potter, and the smell of like wet clay is just it's part of my blood memory for sure, and it's something deeply rooted. It's lineage, generations, and you spoke beautifully about, your family coming from a family of artists. And that actually brings me to my next question. And I think you've, answered it beautifully already, but the next question would be like, coming from a family of talented artists, how are you kind of able to find your unique artistry that both incorporates and innovates?
So this is where I think we can start to include Diego. Because so Cricket's dad was my stepdad, starting from about 9 years old to college. And so through my sort of formative defense, like those years where I was learning myself and who I was and what I found intriguing, and where my independence lived sort of as a person in the world. Diego Romero, who is a he uses traditional pottery techniques to make sort of contemporary subject matter in the Mimbra style pottery. Um, and I would watch him uh, do his pots and listen to Wu-Tang Clan, and me and Sade, our sister, would go through all the stacks of comic books. And that was really influential to me because Diego was the first person in my life that sort of was a city kid, and um he was cool, right? And I was so intrigued by by so many of the people in my life I felt weren't very cool, and here came Diego, and he was very like cool. And he was also like intrigued by what I was interested in, and he was also like supportive. So he really liked my drawings, and he'd be like, "Wow, that's way cool. Did you see this?" Like in his, I really felt like his responses were honest. Um, and so when he had praise for my art process, I felt really um excited about what I was finding. And it was through Diego's comic books actually that I started really getting into drawing. And I started getting into drawing like comic book characters. Um, and I really liked sort of the some of the stylistic expressions that I began to find in my own representations of the life I lived as a mixed-blooded native kid on the res in the 90s, as a teenager in the 90s, right? Like what that meant and what that looked like. And like in like sort of cholo culture of Española, and then the Santa Fe Indian School and the style and the youth culture at the time was really inspiring to me. And I think I had to be homeschooled for a while to actually really be intrigued by the social systems of youth culture. And that um, because I was taught about patterning and about how everything works in reality in relationship to each other, the way that I looked at youth culture was that there's a reason for everything, and that there is beauty in these youth culture sort of expressions. So at the time I was really into like really big baggy pants and like low riders and really really big speakers like subwoofers in the back of your car. And I thought so much about um the empowerment of sort of disenfranchised young people, and what we looked at for a sense of self and a sense of acceptance and the culture that we built in like hip hop or skateboarding, etc., that I got into at the time. And so I initially started making clay beings. I took ceramics as an easy credit at the University of New Mexico. I didn't want to do clay, but since I grew up in it, I figured that was an easy way to get a credit. I actually was studying creative writing and studio art with a minor in flamenco dance, and I was really inspired by flamenco. And the studio art was mainly printmaking, and I was working with Tamarind at the time. So I took ceramics as an easy credit. And my teacher at the time, Gina Bobrowski was her name. She was excited when I started making my graffiti characters out of clay, and they had like big feet or big hands. And I started experimenting in, I remember the first piece I did that was like 4 feet tall and was in pieces that I put back together again. That was fired in sections. And every time I went into the studio and my body would hurt, I would mark it on the clay piece. And it was like my first um, sort of experience in self-reflecting deeply and then expressing that onto like the figurative clay. And that was I think that was a really transformative moment where I felt like I could build my own sort of intimate relationship with the clay. Um, and that it didn't have to be what other people in my family or my context did. It could be what speaks from me, for me, through me to hopefully and ideally to heal some of the things that I felt needed healing.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, I look at your work and I know your mother's work, and you're such a like an innovator. You're a collaborator. You just are so ingenious with your work. Really inspiring, like just seeing your work kind of you and I'm gonna ask this question later on, but you in one of your interviews, I did research about you, but you talk a lot about the physical manifestation of self, and that is very, very empowering. And when you talked about, the youth and how important it is to advocate for, for the youth, because we are, our later generations, what we're leaving behind. And so you working with cars, metal, clay, all types of medias is just, inspiring, speaks volumes to your creativity. And I'm going to go more specific into your writing, but I want to know, I know you received your MFA in creative writing at II, and I was wondering if you can talk about how writing and spoken word has enriched your experience as an Indigenous artist and as a Indigenous woman in general.
I mean, I think that that art itself, because I don't think that there was art as we have it now a long time ago, because there wasn't really a need for it. Like creativity and the application of spiritual expression and beauty was applied to everything. Um, and it wasn't just reserved for, museum walls or uh capitalistic economy, right? And so I feel like I do art for my community, and that's like we just had our feast day yesterday and I made I made a headboard for someone who's a clan sister, and I was looking around and I've made so many headboards, like painted the headboards and they're out there dancing. And I was thinking about like that's the type of art that I do for my community. And that's gonna be very different from the art that I put out into into the other world, right? Um, and I feel like artistic expression is actually just an attempt at communication. It's communication, and so I think I've always been caught by the methods, all the different methods of communicating. And when I was at UNM and I was studying creative writing, I was doing nonfiction. I mean, I was doing fiction, so I was doing like coming up with these stories that they seemed like close to truths that I didn't feel comfortable yet to convey from my own truth, right? And then sort of contemporary art or abstraction in different ways felt like a safe way to express something that feels really tender, I think. And when it is put into words or boxed in that way, I feel like it limits the healing work that it can do, has the potential to do. Um, and so when I was in graduate school at RISD, I was like the only native there. That was very interesting because I was dealing with um, not being able to use a language that I was used to using, a language. Um, and so I realized that I wanted to write a scholarly text on indigenous aesthetics. That was the thing that I didn't feel like I had. Shush, honey. Shush. My parrot wants to say something. Um, and so I was actually using, or I was finding some of the communication I needed in Japanese aesthetics and Japanese texts. Um, and so the reason I went back to school for creative writing and creative nonfiction and got my second master's, I was to write a scholarly text on indigenous aesthetics and for as a resource for the larger scholar community of indigenous scholars. And I actually co-taught a seminar with my brother Porter at IAI on indigenous aesthetics. And the seminar was incredibly enlightening because it made me realize that indigenous aesthetics actually can't be communicated in the language of the colonizer. Like you can't be quoting like Foucault and like make it make sense for for what I was trying to convey. And I actually realized that the closest thing that I can do is define and define and define the artist statement, my intention, and the way that we actually I have understood. I don't like pan-indigenous sayings, but what I have understood of my own experience as a Native person is that more can be communicated and more can be explained when it's contextualized as story. It's almost like we speak in innuendo, and the innuendo is actually much more powerful because it allows um, the listener to come to that awareness in themselves. And so it's empowering rather than didactic and condescending. Um, and so I ended up writing my thesis was basically just a really extended artist statement, right? Which goes back to the initial statement of like there is no separation between art and life. And so it's like I do what I do because of my story, and my story is deeply embedded in what I do. And we walk this path hand in hand, and there is no separation between, um, the making and the living and the lived and the past and the future. It is in a sense like this timeless manifestation of our beingness. And I feel like that is where I'm finding empowerment. And it's less of like, right, the baggy pants of the 90s and the subwoofers, which I still can't hear very well, but all the power tools haven't helped much. But you know, that like what is empowerment is always changing, and it's really incredibly beautiful. And as much as, one of my favorite things is like I wish to never ever know the answer because then I'll stop looking. And I think that I feel like I go through these thresholds every like month and a half that just throw me to my knees. And I'm humbled by the brilliance of these lessons and how fascinating the learning process of life is. It's just really it's really superb. It's wonderful. So I don't know if that answered, but I think that like that the independence or the like finding my own voice is always changing. And I want it to always change. And I hope that for everyone else that if anything, if there's anything that is a truth, is that it's a story and it's always evolving and there's new chapters. Fashion. I dig it. Can you hear
Can you
me?
hear me? Yes, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I didn't get the end part of that. I apologize. I don't know what happened there, but no, you're, what you're saying about your work kind of embodying past, present, and future, that really is encompassing. That is a very woven narrative, and the importance of storytelling uh, is communicated through your work. And I want to hear more about, what you think about storytelling and how it's just so important to our community and to yourself as an artist.
I taught writing about art. I for several years. And it was so funny because it was one of the last classes that the students had to take. And I felt like it should be one of the first, right? Because it was like to me, I felt like as a student of art and as an artist that you need to be able to um express and define your intentions and and sort of the background of your artistic process. And I think in order to do that, one has to be introspective and one has to really ask questions about oneself. And I feel like in any kind of educational setting where art is being taught, that um, learning how to talk about what you're doing and how to reflect will help the artwork itself actually evolve. Like, is that really what you want to be doing? Is that really the more you can and talk it through, express it, um, the more you can hear yourself and sort of comprehend your process and therefore define it, um, and transform it. Um, and then I think, especially in the art world, there's a lot of empty talk, right? There's a lot of like, what are you saying? That's just words as words, right? Um, and so I like to call that out when I have students like, hey, what are you doing with that verbiage? Where is that going? Like, I'm not going where you're taking me. And maybe that's the point, but let's talk about it, right? And so, um, being able to talk about my work has helped me immensely. And it's not always, I don't always have answers, and I've definitely tripped a lot, and I hope to trip because when I trip and fall, I learn ideally. but I hope to be able to communicate as best I can what I'm trying to do or get at. And I feel like the more honest I can be with my own expression, that it allows other people to also find that deep honesty within themselves and their own processes, whatever that looks like. Whether it's bike riding or cooking or sculpting or writing or, whatever you do. Make headboards for Pueblo dances.
Yeah. My next question is actually, it should, I don't know if feast day will, have this fresh in your mind, but I wanted to ask you, being a Pueblo woman, like I would love to hear your relationship with privacy and sacredness and how this cultural understanding is translated in, who you are.
That's a really good question. Um, I think that she disappeared. Oh, there you are. Hi. I think that I actually I give thanks that I was raised. So I think sometimes there's a difference between from and of. And I give thanks that my mom decided to raise me and my brother in the Pueblo so that we are of this place. And um we're very aware of the reciprocation or the consequences of our actions um in having cultural knowledge and information. So if you know things, it's not necessarily for everyone else to know. And I think, a lot of pueblos, as you know, are very strict. And Santa Clara is one, as you know, several artists in the past years have been kicked out of the tribe for speaking or writing or demonstrating cultural imagery that um isn't isn't for outsiders to know or see. Um, and I think about that, like I could have been lazy with my imagery, but because I couldn't, I had to be innovative, right? I had to think outside of the box on how to express those things or to not, right? Like what is underneath it? What is behind it? What's older than that? What's bigger than that? What goes beyond, what goes within, what goes above and below, right? Instead of the thing itself. I'm actually getting ready for a big show at the Young Museum in San Francisco. And it sort of goes hand in hand with a pottery show that they're having there, which is um complicated for me. And the show is called Lexicon, and it is actually my show Car Maria, which is a 1985 Chevy El Camino that's painted like tribal ancestral black on black pottery style. And a new car named Bosquez, a 1964 Buick Riviera that's a Pueblo, actually specifically Tewa polychrome style, with a background of a big mural of the context. And these cars are the closest I get to that traditional imagery. And that scares me. It makes me nervous. Um, but I mean it is love. These cars are painted in these designs because they are of this place. Everybody's like, "Are you selling them?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" They're they're for cruising along the Rio Grande and Española between Okeowinge and Chapawinge, between San Juan and Santa Clara along our river in our ancestral homelands, between the Sangre de Cristos and the Jemez Mountains. This is where those cars belong. This is the context. This is the lexicon. This is why. And so I think that the thesis statement of that work would be that, hey, other people actually see a visual language. And that visual language is a relationship to spirituality, to homeland, to livelihood, to, you know, spirituality and our relationship to sacredness. That there is something, but I'm not going to sit there and say this means that and this means that, right? That's not your business. And so there's, the museum shop wants to sell t-shirts, and I'm just like, okay, where do we go with that, right? Um, one of my best friends is a tribal spiritual leader person, and I end up running a lot by him because I'm always, I understand that as a person of my place, that what I do affects everyone. And I think that a lot of artists that I used to think, man, how cool would it be to just not be connected and I could do whatever I wanted, right? Like go live in the big city and just like, not have all the aunties looking over your shoulder and see whose car is in your yard kind of thing. But it's like, being held accountable by your community and understanding that your actions will reflect and affect everyone around you. Um, you think a little longer about what you do and you consider it, and understand that if you make a mistake, there's really big implications to it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. That was so beautiful. Privacy like is just so interconnected with sacredness and ceremony, I think, in indigenous communities, especially like Pueblo communities, like privacy, that's very important. And I think to me, I was always, struck to like what questioning like the privacy. I really, as a because this was who I am. I don't want to feel as though. But then I like after some reflection, I realized ceremony is supposed to be returned to and is supposed to be, you know, enclosed and exist in this kind of hermetic state where it's tight knit. It exists within that space. And when you talk about your cars saying, no, this is where they belong, the community, this is, it's all about returning to that and belonging. And there's something sacred and private in that. And it should, like you said, should be private. And
I
so
love that.
that was beautiful. Thank you so
It's
much.
cool.
That was very, yeah. I love you're like, no, these cars, they gotta be driven down up in us like a I'm like, yep, that's where they belong.
Yeah.
Yeah. um so thank you so much for asking that. Or sharing your wisdom with that, because um both being Pueblo, we can no, I have one more question for you before, or two more questions, but hopefully they kind of, they can be put together. But so I'll ask both, but you can kind of take, meld them together. But you yourself are a mother, and I was just wondering if you can speak about the knowledge and wisdom that comes with motherhood, because that journey itself is an artistic one. And there's I've heard you talk about your daughter and how, and it's very beautiful. It's like, that connection, that bond that motherhood brings, and you know how to speak uh, truer to it than I do. But yeah, it's
I mean, what a blessing. I was a late mom, right? Like my mom had me at the end of 19, right? And like so at 33 I was geriatric. You know? And so I lived a really sort of full and big life before I became a mom. And I'm grateful for that because I see the importance of this new chapter and the like the the teaching it has for me. It's been incredible. And I could be here for it because I already did a lot of the things that it got off my, I rode the motorcycles and did the things and now I can be home, and like learn about being a nurturer to another human being and the power in that. And I think like I've navigated a lot of gender role stuff that's been really I think in our world it has been really scary for me to be feminine, I think. And as like a two-spirit person, like masculine energy has been much more comfortable to me in those like sort of roles in life. And so like bringing a human into the world through my body and feeding it of my body, um, was the most like humbling and incredible things. And it showed me a strength that I had never deemed even possible. No matter what I could do, sort of in the masculine sense, that what being a mother, being a parent required of me was more than any of that other stuff. And so I felt like there's a strength that's way beyond, that is the patience and the love and the dedication that comes from becoming a parent. And I don't, I mean, I can't imagine, I don't understand how parents cannot develop that bond and not relive that experience. And I know that happens, but I'm grateful that I've gotten um to be led and taught by this love. It's just incredible and really, really hard and frustrating. But man, if you want to get rid of some stuff in your life, like you start choosing your battles, and some of those ones you used to care about, I do not care anymore. And I love that. Like you run out of F's to give. So it's really beautiful. And I think too, like I also realize like that when you are an endangered species, that oh wow, like I now am in charge of the future of my people. Like this is it. And I made another one of us, which is pretty nuts. And now I have to teach it and guide it to understand those things that only a few of us left know. And that I didn't realize that kind of weight and that kind of responsibility until it was on my shoulders and I had to make that decision, right? It was wild. It's like, okay. And then to be like, well, what happens when I become an elder? And do I know the things I need to pass to the kids? Do I know those things? And I filtered through, right? Like my brother's really into like these are the rules and this is how it's done. And I'm like, let's keep us alive and then we could talk about rules. Right? Like, um, and so like what is love and what is desire and what is like what inspires human beings to want to live and be a human in relationship to creation is more what I'm interested in. And so when I approach things like cultural knowledge, I think I use a lot of like joy and goofiness and I try and look at it holistically so that when I teach, it's not just dogma, it's actually from the heart and fully wholly rounded so that it is deeply understood and might be more integrated than if it's just the rules. Then you're like, because I know me and I don't like rules. So I would be like, if I was a young person and you told me that, I'd be like, nah, I'm good. But if you tell me why and you tell me the whole story and you give it to me in an experience that is beautiful, then I'm going to accept it differently.
Wow, that was so. Thank you so much. My last question was just touching on legacy, and you've already spoken this whole interview about what legacy is and what it means to you. So, thank you so much. And this was a wonderful 45 minutes. And I'm going to right now. So, thank you so much, Rose. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. What great wisdom and knowledge. I really am just so honored to have been in this space with you and hear your story, part of your story, and you're it's still going. So it's the journey is never ending. So thank you so much. I'm gonna pass it to Elena for our announcements for the upcoming events, and we'll come
Thank,
back for audience questions and hellos.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for that, Cricket. And thank you, Rose, so much for blessing us in the circle. This incredible wisdom that you have shared with us. Rose, if you want to flick your camera off, that's cool. Get a drink. I'm just going to go through some announcements. So if you're happy to hang out, that's very cool as well. And then we're going to invite everyone in the audience to come in. So if you are a regular here and you're wondering, where is Tash? And we have this incredible intern, Cricket, who you just saw. One of the things that she wanted to do was to host the Wisdom Circle. And thanks to her leadership, we can thank Cricket for bringing in Rose Simpson. And I got very teary, not only from what was shared with Rose, but also this extraordinary leadership um, shown by Cricket. And one of the things that Rose talked about was returning and belonging. There's a mob of participants, of family members of Cricket who is in live at this moment. And that's what it's about, belonging. Everyone's got each other's back, talking about the 7 generations forward. So thank you, Cricket. Thank you, Rose. Okay, this is that great time of what's going on. Also, who we have on right now, and thank you, Mateo, for blessing us. Next month, same time, same channel. We've got the beautiful Mateo Romero, who is a contemporary Pueblo painter, born and raised in Berkeley, California. His cultural background is an urban one through his father, San Diego Romero, and his connection to the southern Carasan Cochiti Pueblo. His experience include much of the Rio Grande Pueblo worldwide as well. So we are very blessed to have Motia, Mateo, who will be here next month, and hope you can join us then. If you want to be able to share Rose's video, you will in the next 48 hours. If you go to our website, IndigenousWays.org, there you'll see over 200 extraordinary presenters that we did through the Wisdom Circle, both in the virtual events, both Wisdom Circle and also concert series. It started the 1st of April 2020 when COVID hit, and we're continuing on a monthly basis. So you can see, thanks to our sponsors, the City of Santa Fe Arts and Culture, as well as the National Endowments of the Arts, in making this possible and one of the programs that we continue to do. If you want to continue to find out what's happening through Indigenous Ways, if you go to our website, IndigenousWays.org, you can subscribe to our newsletter. And if you're one of those amazing social media peeps flashing along the bottom there, you'll see our social media pages. Please like and subscribe to them, share it with your friends. And what's happening this Friday is Indian market has started. So very appreciative to Rose, knowing how busy you are getting ready for this weekend. Friday, we're kicking off in partnership with Lensic 360, our Indigenous Ways Festival. which is happening on Friday at the Santa Fe Rail Yard Park at the Water Tower. This is a free event. We have ASL interpreters, and our artists who will be presenting not only two-time Grammy Award Robert Mirabal, we've got a wonderful reggae group, Interstate, uh, then followed by G Precious, who is this wonderful hip hop Okayawinge artist. We have Deaf Eye, and starting the evening is the extraordinary traditional singer Red Miller Cody. So this you can go to our website, find out more about that to register. All of our events that we do, whether that be online now or in person, have ASL interpreters, ADA accessible. Tonight, I want to give a big shout out to Kat Ridley, who is our interpreter now, and also Hannah Sosi making access available to all. So, on that note, I'm going to encourage all those who are on to turn on your videos if you want to. I'm going to bring back the gorgeous Cricket and Rose, and this is the Q&A now of what's going to be happening, and I'm going to turn that back to you, Cricket, as you've done an extraordinary job. We've got about 8 minutes left. If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand so Cricket will call on you. We've only got 8 minutes left, being respectful of everyone's time. But we'll look forward to seeing you either next month or on Friday if you're here. We've also got your auntie here, Cricket, wait, and uncle, Dana Tiger, who's also going to be presenting her film. So if anyone wants to give a shout out with what they're doing for Indian market too, I'm going to encourage you to do that. Over to you, Cricket. Who do you want?
Hello. Well, would anybody like to ask Rose a question or say hi to Rose? Please raise your hand or unmute yourself at the bottom.
I don't have a question. I'm just blown away. There was so many things you said that just resonated with me and keep on resonating with me. And I went to your website and looked at your work. Oh my God. So I I look forward to learning more about you. Thank you for your wisdom. My God. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh, hello, Aria. Would you I see your hands raised?
Hi. First of all, thank you so much. This is just incredible. And yeah, just extraordinary. So much that I'm gonna be thinking about. You talked about like this learning process of life, and I would love to just learn a little bit more about what that means to you and also kind of how that you've incorporated that into your teaching.
I thank you for that question. Um I think that what I've learned the most is to listen, and not just like investigate and dig through the card catalog of Google, etc. Put in like, conspiracy theories on TikTok. I'm talking more like, you know, like sit in silence and hear what is trying to get to you, because I feel like there's messages that are there. And I I feel like I get in my way very often, and so I'm learning to get out of my own way and open myself up to hearing. And so, I think another one is that we are guests always. Even Indigenous people are guests to this life, to this body, to this place, and that we act as such. And if you are walking or being in any way an entitlement, I think that there's not a lot of learning to be had. And so, you know, I'm trying to learn how to be more aware and be more conscious about my actions and movement because I feel like I can learn a lot more when I remember I don't know everything. Um, I've been doing a project in Japan, and that'll really make you feel like a guest and that you don't know anything. And there's a lot of humbling and sort of quiet moments that I feel I'm very grateful for.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Mario, would you like to ask a question? And Arletta,
Hello,
yes.
yes.
Oh.
I'm Mario. Let me go ahead and ask my question? Okay. Hello, my name is Mario. I'm an artist too, and I feel the same connection you feel when I do my drawings, and it's really involved with my emotions and my thought process. So I just want to know, when you make something, how long does the art process take to process your emotions and put that into your art? Also, and how does that really intertwine with sharing it to the world?
I actually I see like pictures of people who are like thinking about their art and sitting in the studio like pondering colors, and that's not me. I have a kid, I have a farm, I have lots of plants and cars to take care of, and so I don't have a lot of time. I have a sketchbook and I draw them out and I do the engineering and then I do it. I get it done. Someone told me recently that I work on art like I'm a crafts person in like a I don't know, factory or something. I just get it done. And the emotional thing is happening all the time. It's not reserved for the actually the studio is where, I roll up my sleeves and pull out the welder and get it done in a sense that like I don't mess around. So I don't know. I think that the emotional part of it is very much happening in life itself in a bigger sense, and that the things that I make are like these nuggets of like the delicious parts of those experiences that I get to catch and draw into my sketchbook and turn into an engineered reality.
Yes, thank you so much. Arletta, did
That's a
you
beautiful
have
life. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you so much for sharing.
Mhm.
Yes, we have time for one more word or question. Arletta, I saw your hand raised. Would you want to ask or tell Rose anything?
Yes. Hi. Hi. Hello. I'm missing part of it. I'm trying to watch it and I logged in 30, I missed the past 30 minutes. So, um, I was in my car and I had car problems. And so I wasn't able to go. So I missed part of it. But thank you. Thank you so much for your art. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arletta. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. This has been a wonderful past 60 minutes. So thank you so much, Rose, again, for your wisdom and time. I look forward to seeing you, hopefully, around Indian Market or with the family. But thank you so much. This was just a beautiful time. And thank you everyone who's come and shared the space with us. And I hope you all have a beautiful night.
Right
Right
on.
on.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Hey,
Happy
let's
Indian
give it up for
Market.
the beautiful Cricket Tiger, her first debut as host. Thank you to the ASL interpreters, each and every one of you for coming in. We're going to look forward to seeing you next month with the beautiful Mateo Romero. But let's give a big shout out and lots of love to the one and only Rose Simpson.
Yay! Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you all. Beauty way all the way.
Let's hear your new song. Let it go. Let it be. Let it go. Let's hear your new song. Let's hear your new song.